Hey everybody, it's David. This is the first ever Crypto Edge update via video, and I just wanted to make this because I see some things in the market that I want to talk about. I want to use some of the charts, and I want to talk about Bitcoin and maybe some altcoins, and kind of just take a broader view of what's going on in the market. Give you guys a cool little update because we've had this massive run up in Bitcoin, right? And we're starting to see the correction come in finally. So, how do we act given that information? So I'm just going to take a look at the various time frames and just tell you what I'm seeing. I'm starting off on the weekly for Bitcoin here. I always like to take a look at the longer time frames. We could obviously look at the monthly, but to be honest, on Coinbase, there isn't a lot of information. I mean, you can see this kind of faded red background means we're kind of in a bear, and this faded green background means we're in a bull, and that has to do with these kind of moving average crosses that I've set up. And these are just specific moving average crosses that I was taught by my teacher and have chosen to use, and I can change them if I want to. But it's a 30 simple SMA and 13 EMA. And you can see that they're coming to meet here, but basically instead of crossing, they kind of took off to the upside here on the monthly. So we kind of have maintained this bull market, right? This long-term bull market. You're looking at the monthly, so that's not really going to give us a lot of information in terms of what do we do right now. Still, Willie hasn't gotten stupid, so at least on the moving average here for our overbought signal, it's getting there for sure. And the actual oscillator has gone overbought and is starting to come out of overbought because of this rally. So we do have to consider that. And still, OBV is positive, and so money's still flowing into Bitcoin, like on a general, very long-term basis, right? If we move to the weekly, you can see we were in this sustained long period of this bear market, this very difficult bear market for a lot of people. And as this buy signal came in, we had the weekly W come in. Well, a few weeks after that, the moving averages turned, and we've kind of entered into somewhat of a bull here. Whether or not this is going to be a dead cat bounce or just a reactionary high, we're gonna have to see how that plays out, right? But right now, Bitcoin's looking positive, right? It looks like this could be a potential bottom. I always found it kind of fascinating that we kind of on the weekly hit this 200 SMA down here. This just started to record on Coinbase, which is interesting. This is 200 period moving average, and it put off a nice bottom there, came back down to retest it, didn't break through it, and then went up. And we often see that happen where a couple of different tests, no, it's not going to break through it. We're moving up in the other direction. So if you took this trade, whether you took it here or whether you took it here, kudos to you. Hopefully you took some profits, or you're thinking about taking some profits now. But basically that was a great trade. So, but where are we now? And on the weekly basis, like I said, we do have these moving average crosses, which is a really positive bullish sign. You can see that volume is moving up. We have MACD moving up and making new highs in terms of this entire range from here to here. MACD making new highs, but we do have Willie approaching the overbought zone. So and the actual indicator, the Williams percentage are going to overbought. So we have to be careful here. This is obviously not a place to be a buyer, and I've been saying that repeatedly. So if we drill down to the daily time frame, actually, this is a bot setup, which is a trend continuation setup. So I said to myself on the 4 hour, all right, well, actually, I think this was a 1 hour bot that I set up. Let's see. Yeah. So on the 1 hour, we had this kind of bot setup come in. I said, all right, if this is going to continue to be a bull, well, here's the objective, 8779. But you can see that this went up. We moved our stop to trailing here. Hopefully, if you took this exact bot setup, well, you took your profits up here, locked those in, and then this bot eventually failed, right? So, this trend continuation setup is no longer valid. So I'll remove it. And then we have to kind of see, well, what are we doing in terms of how far Bitcoin's going to break down? It definitely saw some resistance here at the 200 period moving average, but put in a market structure M, which is a bearish signal, obviously. But let's go back to the dailies for now, right? What are the dailies telling us? First of all, if we take this move from here, which I think is totally valid, you can see that for some reason, 38, I'm going to have to 38.2 back. I don't know why that is out of there, but there we go. Oops. I want this to be gray. That should work for now. All right. I'll adjust that later. So basically we haven't even tested 38.2 here on this move. So we don't know whether or not we're going to get a trend continuation here on a higher time frame quite yet. Until we really resolve this 38.2, we don't know whether or not we're going to head back down here into the reload zone. And we still have a green, bullish impetus on these moving average crosses. So while we have had a pretty significant correction here, we still don't have any market structure on the daily, and we don't have a reason that I can see right now, a very strong reason to go short. Now, if we had, let's say, something like this come in, go down, come back up, this is very feasible. And then we resolve bearishly. All right, that would be a significant, at least shorting opportunity on the daily. If you like to take shorter term trades, which are a little bit harder to play, we're going to have to nail down to the 4 hour time frame or the 1 hour time frame. But on the daily, you could consider this to be, a bearish signal, because we did get a bearish engulfing bar here, and then after that the next day just a huge dump, obviously. But we have this tail, and wicks and tails like to be eaten, so are we going to come back and test that? I think we probably will. I think the reality is, and this is just my opinion, I don't know yet, obviously, is that we are going to come back and test this range, and I'm going to be looking to place my bids right here at the top of this market structure. Now, I know that's aggressive for a lot of people, but it still makes a lot of sense in terms of this larger W range. This is still the neckline of this W. If you come down, get a lower high, and then a breakout. Whoops. Come down, move up. That's still the high right there, because this one over here I don't think it made a higher, at least it was the same. So basically, I'd like to put my bid in, at least one of my bids down here at 78.6, and hope for a retrace of this range. And that's just my trading plan. This is a very big W. In fact, if we look at the weekly, kind of spread this out, because I mostly play the weekly charts, and I combine them with the daily. But here, you come down, that's a nice W, and a retrace of this range. All right, it might take a few weeks to come down here. it might take something like, you know, this to get down here, and that's perfectly fine with me, you know. But this would be normal and healthy in the market before we, let's say, took off to new highs. And this might have to actually turn red for a temporary period, break some hearts before we move back up, right? This happens all the time in the markets. I think this would qualify as a Wackovian check, you know, just come back down here, check the market before we took off. But I can't be a buyer of Bitcoin up here. I might be able to become a buyer at this range right here. Once we get a 50% retrace at 50% of this time frame, I might be able to become a buyer, and certainly I can become a buyer here at the 61.8 level, right? Any point in this reload zone, long-term buyer on the weekly. I'd be very comfortable taking nibbles at 51.29, 42.70, and certainly down here. And if we break to new lows, I'm still gonna keep some powder dry because we still haven't seen that massive capitulation candle. So we really just don't know whether Bitcoin's going to make new lows. Right now, everybody's on the bullish side, right? And when everybody's on the bullish side, we kind of have to be thinking, if everybody's overly bullish, you know, what should we be thinking? And you really have to be thinking some sort of bearish scenario as a contrarian investor. We've looked at the daily. Let's see. We'll take a look at the 2-day. Yeah, I don't know if this might constitute a shooting star here on the 2-day. 2-day has been really great for predicting moves in Bitcoin. I really like it. So, but I don't see anything that is going to be any different than looking at the daily over here. Let's go to the 4-hour. On the 4-hour, we have, I think this would be, yeah, we had this divergence come in here from, let's see, from here to here. This was our first sign of kind of a breakdown, but we weren't really necessarily getting it on the daily, right? But this was kind of saying, all right, let's hold our horses here. Let's temper our enthusiasm. Look at that divergence that came in right off the top, right? So once you see that come in and kind of break down, once you get to you have from here to here, hardly a move, but from here to here, a very big move down and below the zero line, right? So you have to consider that here's a bearish divergence, and after that we did get the breakdown. We did get a crossing of the moving average, and we do have some market structure come in here, right? So right here, right along here, could have been your trade for a very reasonable trade, a very good trade, I would think, down to you know, on the 4-hour, and you could totally, in my opinion, risk down to this 200 SMA, and you could put your stop if you were just going to short or if you were going to go into cash over there, and you would have a 2.69 reward just to come back to 200 SMA. Now we're going to have to see how that trade plays out, but you know, for the purposes of this site, we're kind of looking at the higher time frames, and right now I think the most important thing is this is kind of no man's land. I think if you didn't take this trade here on the 4-hour, you can't, you know, don't chase this trade. I would wait for a return, maybe a bounce back to this level, and then if we see that it's kind of crapping out, that the momentum kind of hasn't picked up, well, I would say that, you know, a trade is possible to the downside is there as well there. But right now, kind of no man's land. And if we go down to the 1-hour, well, you see some market structure kind of coming in here, and the MACD looking a little bit more healthy here, and nothing really happening in terms of Willie looking a little bit bullish. So I would say that this short trade is not really happening for the time being, and to be careful there. It may have already, the location is just not that great, right? So if you were thinking about that, just be wary. And I would also say, well, you have a significant breakdown in OBV here. So I would, I'm just venturing a conjecture here. We do kind of have to wait and see how much this retraces. But if you want to be a buyer of Bitcoins, you've got to be thinking below this level, 51.51 on Coinbase, at least down to the 57.68, depending on how long-term or how aggressive you're being. Obviously, if we look at the weekly charts and we draw our fib off of this, let's see, off of our major high, being a buyer on a very long-term basis, or you're looking over the next 2 to 5 years, anything below 68.13, well, you're pretty much safe. So you could potentially be a buyer of Bitcoins here, but it's like, why would you? This is looking very toppy right now. You've got to be careful, right? But it is looking bullish. We have W's here that came in on OBV. We have a bullish impetus here where we've got volume moving up, and definitely some strong green bars. We have 1, 2, 3 green bars here, making higher highs in volume. So I'm definitely looking to be a buyer of Bitcoins in this range. I would just like to see it come down a little bit, so that I could reduce my risk and get them a little cheaper. I like to spread my bids, right? And I like to keep as much powder dry as possible. In case we make lower lows, I have absolutely no problem with that. I could take some cheaper Bitcoins down here. And if we look at the volume profile, we do have a notch right in here that looks like it needs to be filled in right at this 5,200 area. And, we have value down here at 3,600. So, are we going to come back down and kind of test this value low? We're going to have to see. If I zoom out a little bit, then you can see where there's a big notch in here. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see us kind of come down and play in here for a little bit. That's possible. So, I'm looking to set my bids a little lower. Am I going to look to set my bid around here? I mean, I will be a buyer in that notch if it comes down there. I think it's going to be pretty difficult. It might happen very, very quickly if it does go down there. I'm not a super bear like that. It looks like there's some pretty significant resistance around here at 3,000. And if the institutions moved in at this area right here, then it's going to be hard for it to come down and make new lows. It's just going to be. But you just never know with this crazy market, right? I just think that it's too risky to be a buyer up here. So that's kind of my breakdown of Bitcoin right now, where we are and what I'm waiting to do personally. Obviously, no financial advice given, not telling you to invest in anything, consult your investment advisor, all that kind of good stuff, right? Just take a look at a couple of coins that I've been interested in. ZRX is the #1 fundamental coin on Coin Checkup, and so I've been interested in this name, and I wanted to see it come in and put it in a double bottom and a W. I think technically, if I blow this chart up, it didn't do that. This is not a higher wick than this one right here. So, and you can see just a solid red background. So we really haven't gotten that moving average cross yet. And I wonder if we even have enough data for that. So, yeah, see, you can see we just got enough data over here. So it just really hasn't come down on the weekly to make a cross. But I have no problem taking like a very small nibble. And what happened was with me, I had my bids down here, 25 cents and like 23.5-ish. And I just missed it. Oh, man. See, I would have had a nice little rally there, but no big deal. I still think we have a nice chance to come down here. The fact was I drew fib off of this range and put my bids in there and kind of forgot about it. Didn't redraw this fib here and didn't move my bid to 78.6 up just a little bit. If I did, I would have gotten a fill. That's just what happens sometimes if you don't have your eye on the ball. But I don't even think being this exact is really that necessary. I had my original buy orders, and it could have been filled there, and it just didn't. And you can see with this kind of precipitous drop in Bitcoin, well, in terms of USD, this is coming down. I like that there's markets on Coinbase to play on now. I like that exchange. I think it's easy to use. The fees are low. I can move money, fiat dollars in and out for no fee. And, it's a trusted exchange to me. I feel like they have a lot of money behind them and then good security, so, and just a long history. So I like that I can actually play some of these names in terms of US dollars. So I'm just going to keep those bids there. It's just like a small nibble, no big deal. And hopefully I'll just, come back down and get my fill here. If it comes back down and starts to kind of like put in a W maybe around here, I might just pick some up. If I can't get these more aggressive bids filled, but that's just me. Another one I put bids in for that finally came down was this, what's it called? ZEC, which is Zcash. And, there isn't a lot of history on Coinbase, and this is in terms of USDC. It looks like USDC is pretty stable right here. So I think what I was doing to get some more history, maybe going back to Bitfinex, I think this probably has the longest history. You can see well down off its range. Don't even need to draw fib because I think it came and with this candle right here, looks like it put in some sort of capitulation dump, right? Came down, made a new low, came right back up in the same week. We can drop down to the daily to just see, yeah, that was just in one day, right? And kind of put in that low and head back up a little bit. But you can see we're just kind of testing the bottom of this range. And so this looks like a very attractive buy to me. And you can see here it kind of popped up to make a new high. And so we put in that W. It should show a weekly W here. If you're going to take into account the wicks, yeah, we have a weekly W here. And we're about to get a moving average cross here. So to me, on the price chart, this looks like a very attractive name. And we have a W, well, almost W here in OBV. So volume not looking quite as healthy as Bitcoin. But we do have a massive MACD divergence here. You can see multiple divergences that have come in terms of just the price going all the way down, MACD going all the way up, and then Willie coming out of stupid. So I'm interested in this name, and I did put in some bids based off of, I think, this chart. And but if you look here, so the numbers came off a little bit different because this is in USDC and it's a different market. But eventually, I just put my bids in here. And, I'm expecting for this market to come back down and give me some fills. If it does, great. If it doesn't, I'm perfectly fine with that as well. So that's another one. And I like that it's a top coin. I'm more interested in investing in these like top 50 names now. If I can get them, right? And I love the idea of being able to get in on some of these altcoin names in terms of USD as well. I do the Bitcoin trades, but I also do USD. Now we can see Ethereum really ran away here, but again, when Bitcoin comes off in terms of USD, we're gonna see altcoins come off almost every single time, unless you have that one outlier that's just kind of racing away. You can see we got the moving average cross on the weekly. We got the W, kind of looks very similar to Bitcoin, a little bit different. And then we got massive volume here, right? You can just see this volume moving up and, bullish divergence. But we're starting to get a little bit overheated here. And I just don't chase it when it's up here. But I like Ethereum. I've always liked Ethereum. I made a lot of money on Ethereum, as some of you know. And basically, I'm looking for it to come back down into this range over here. Draw our fib on. Well, actually, if I redraw the fib, based off this new high because it ran up. Well, I could rechange my bids to 158, and I probably will. I think I will probably change my bids to 158 here, 124. If I don't, I'm perfectly fine like that. And if I get filled on these, that's great. So that was an interesting name to me on a USD. And then I liked this market. Also, kind of a top coin in terms of coin checkup. Not that I'm saying coin checkup has like they're the ultimate in whether or not you should invest in a name, but I like to see if they're on the first page of coin checkup, kind of go and see, do we have a technical setup here? Again, I can't really do it on this chart, so you got to kind of go back, and I can go back to Bittrex, and they do kind of their own calculation. This is not actually a market. But you can see it's definitely at the low end of the range. On a weekly, it's putting in a W. We don't have the moving average crosses on this quite yet. But that's okay. This is a very, very small bet. And you can see right now it sits at 7 cents. And, very small bet. If I could pick some up here at 6 cents, can we... The question we have to ask here is, if I pick some of this up at 6 cents... is it reasonable to assume that, I think that's the top of that wick. Let's see. There's the bottom of this range. Pretty sure I have that. I'm not taking into account that, obviously, that first one. Is it reasonable to assume over time, I have to reverse this fib, that we're going to come up, and test this 50% rule, and test this dollar range, or even will we test, let's say, this right over here, this horizontal support and resistance. We got some trapped bears, some trapped bulls here who would love to get rid of some coins, coming up here at 42 cents. So for me, I have no problem taking 1% nibble around here and seeing if I can get off a double and seeing if it can race even higher. For me, that's a low risk trade, and so that's good for me. Of course, follow your trading plan, and don't take massive risks. There's a lot of good names out there right now, but we don't want to chase. We want to be patient. We want to make them come back down. Fill your bids. I very rarely, probably like 1% of the time, do market orders. I just like getting filled on bids after I've seen weekly W's come in. That's just my own personal trading preference. Anyway, so that's your video update for today. I hope you enjoyed I hope you enjoyed this video. Got some great value from it. Again, this is if you haven't gone through the videos in the Crypto Edge course, make sure that you do that. So if I'm talking gibberish to you or you don't really understand what's going on, go through the videos. Things will become more clear. I do think that in some time we're going to see this market turn around. I'm still very bullish on Bitcoin. To the point that I'm not sure that we've seen the major high, right? We've seen a major high in terms of a market cycle up there at 20,000. Have we seen, the end of Bitcoin moving up past 20,000? My personal opinion, which is not something to be traded on, but based on what I see, I think no, we haven't seen that. So I'm liking these different names in terms of US dollars on the certainly on the weekly charts. And some of them are going to come back down to levels as if Bitcoin comes back down as well. So I hope this is all making sense. If not, obviously go into the members area and watch those videos so that you can understand and that you can have confidence in your trades, and so you build out a nice trading plan. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.